Hello, Anu. Welcome to DC Conversations. First of all, you have chosen a very interesting and probably, what do I say, a controversial subject for your book. What was the inspiration behind this book?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here first. And it's controversial because we've associated the word Bishnoi with something.
Yeah,
Either my
right.
generation grew up with the Salman Khan poaching incidents or now with Lawrence Bishnoi. And
Yeah,
we've completely forgotten the philosophy that stands behind them. They have 550 years of conservation, of
yeah,
of a philosophy of huge conservation, which
yeah.
we've kind of forgotten. And that's what makes it controversial. Otherwise, it's not really controversial. So, coming to the inspiration, so my father was a police officer, and we're from Haryana, and Haryana has huge Bishnoi populations. We've had one of our CM has also been from the Bishnoi community, and he used to talk of when poaching happens, a lot of in Bishnoi villages, people come together catching the poacher and saying ki abhi insaf karo ji iske saath. The need for instant justice was so strong even way back then. So I was narrating this incident to a friend who also happened to be a publisher, and they said, "Why don't you write about it?" So I wrote an article about it. I made a video about it, which is like a 2 minute video, which became viral, a little reel. And from there, one thing led to another, and a whole book came out.
Amazing. So tell us about the Bishnoi tradition as a 500-year-old environmental practice.
Sure. So it was started by Guru Jambeshwarji, fondly called Jambhoji in now. And so this happened at a time when this area in Rajasthan, the desert land of Rajasthan, was seeing a lot of people leaving the land because of the environmental factors there. There was no grain growing, there were famines, animals were dying, people were dying. So what he did was he laid down this philosophy telling people how to live life in harsh environmental conditions. And he laid down a code of 29 principles to be followed, which are to do with personal health first, and then how to treat animals, how to treat plants, exactly what to do, and then what to do from the environmental perspective. So these are a whole list of 29 rules that he laid down, and from there came about the Bishnoi tradition. He also said that do Vishnu Japa, and the whole philosophy is geared towards Vishnu Bhakti, and it's a Hindu Vaishnava Sampradaya. So from Vishnu Japa became Vishnu, Bishnoi. That's one line of thing
Okay.
that's the word Bishnoi comes from. But a lot of people also say that because the rules were 29 rules, 29 is Bishnoi, Bish plus 9. 29 Bish plus 9, and that's where Bishnoi comes from, but the original is actually it's a Vishnu Bhakti tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And curiously, those are the same environmental challenges that we face even today.
So,
In
talking
in
about
the world we
environmental,
see.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, talking about environmental challenges, what do you think, modern climate movements misunderstand about the conservation that the Bishnois instinctively understand?
A very good question. See, now I'm not an environmentalist. I started this whole journey as a lawyer seeking legal answers and then the philosophy from the Dharma style, right? So I stand at the intersection of law, Dharma, and environment in this book. One thing that I think is being missed out in the current environmental framework is individual consciousness. What
Mm,
we are seeing as a disconnection, it is a crisis of disconnection. And this crisis of disconnection is first beginning with ourselves. We are losing our touch with our consciousness. And hence the relationships around, and hence the environment. So environmental philosophy is missing out the connection that we are supposed to have with ourselves. It's very easy to say that it's something outside when it actually starts from within. And that's what the Bishnoi philosophy did. It connected people with the japa and with the philosophy inside, and then the outside becomes a reflection of what the person is. So maybe that's what is being missed out completely.
yeah. And also, tell us about the K. Jarli Masaka.
Right, right. So,
Because that's so interesting. While I was doing my research, I mean, I don't think anybody is aware of something like that happened,
And Rashmi, that's so sad, right?
I know, I know.
We talk
Exactly.
of feminism and ecofeminism, and there is this big story, in fact, two big stories that are coming out of India where women are leading these movements and we don't find mention of them. So
Yeah,
most people don't know that in 1730, in rural Rajasthan, where we are told that oh, women were deprived and women were kept behind and there is
suppressed.
patriarchy, this and that, right? And they're oppressed. That whole narrative. I mean, imagine how it gets busted. So once upon a time, it sounds like a story, but it is not. The king's men came to cut some trees, and as they came to cut the trees for to take the firewood to the palace for some construction expansion, one woman, Amrita Devi Bishnoi, very very strong woman, got up and said, "We're not going to let the trees cut." She was coming from the philosophy of the Bishnoi philosophy. She said that the philosophy is rukh lila na ghave, that is, don't cut green trees. Literally, ghav nahi dena, rukh lila na ghave. And she said, I will not let the trees get cut. And the king's men said that, okay, if you don't obey orders, we will chop off your head. And she said, do whatever you want, but I will not let this tree being cut. And she hugged the tree, literally hugged the tree. And the king's men charged at her. She didn't let go of the tree. And one thing led to another, and they chopped off her head. Seeing her head rolled off, three of her daughters came running to her. Young girls. They came running to see what was happening, and the soldiers cut off their heads also. One by one, the whole village started converging at the point. Passers-by started converging, and they hugged the trees and they said that we will not let trees being cut. And 363 people were massacred in this. And
Yeah.
this is not the time of WhatsApp, no, that instant news can be sent back. So by the time the news went back to the king, who was traveling away to Gujarat or somewhere, as the legend says, 363 men, women, and children were massacred, protecting trees. And then the king issued a Tamrapatra, and a decree saying that no trees will be cut in the Bishnoi village. And imagine we don't know of this massacre.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
250 years later, this inspired the Chipko Andolan, which was also by the women of the Rania village who hugged the trees. And they said, we will not let trees cut. But there, it got converted into a political movement, right? And Bahugunaji led the movement. We give Bahugunaji all the credit for the political movement, which it should get also. But we forget that it was the women who inspired it. What inspired? They led it on the ground.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think examples of women leadership should be taught, and these are ecofeminism leadership. Why is all this not in our textbooks? It is kind of sad.
That's true. So, this sacrifice predates any celebrated environmental movements, right? Why
Yeah.
why do you think this history remained marginal in mainstream conservation narratives?
See, that's to do with all Indian philosophy, I think. All Indian history is eventually written by outsiders. No, it was we were uh, winners write their history, right? And we were not winners when our history was being written. So I think that is one reason. And secondly, we've also been a little lazy in changing the narratives and taking control of narratives, in the sense, at the end of the day, right now, it's a war of narratives. Maybe it always was, and we never took it that seriously.
Yeah,
So when we do things, we study in academia, we study theories, value benefit theory. Why don't we study a theory which is giving rise to such environmental thought? Why is it not part of academia studies? Is something that even academics need to focus on, and something like you and me as communicators, maybe we need to focus on that. If this is a war of narratives, where is our voice? Why are we so lazy?
yeah, yeah. And talking about outsiders writing about our history, you question the dominance of Western conservation model, right? What would a dharma-based environmental framework look like in practical policy terms today?
Mhm. Uh, the environmental framework, no, uh, when we look at the Western environmental frameworks, they are actually driven again by power. They are not driven by the love for environment. They're not driven by the love for ourselves in any way. they are again and again telling the global south that there is a global north that is dominating the thought. So the narrative, the ethos, the theory behind it is still power. It is not environment. What is missing and what we need to contribute then is, if it were a dharma framework, it would have put the environment first, people first, their requirements first, their health first. So it starts from me, my body first, then my family, then going over to my community, then my country, and then my environment. So I put these concentric circles as an involution kind of a framework in the book. It starts with self first.
Yeah.
So any dharma framework starts with the self first. Till such time we are in congruity with ourselves, congruity with the elements of our body, we cannot establish congruity or balance in the elements outside. We are fighting for space. There are a lot of judgments which I quote in the book, and one of the judgments, it's a Tamil Nadu High Court, it's a Madras High Court judgment, which says that at the end of the day, we are fighting for space, for free space outside, in our cities where our children don't have space to play. And when the same tattvas were being discussed, the 5 Panchamahabhutas that are being discussed, we have lost track of them. Till such time we were aligned with the tattvas, we were aligned with the environment outside. So I think the need is to bring back focus on individual consciousness a lot more. That is the dharma-centric way of looking at anything, environment too.
So you think if India consciously drew from its civilizational ethos in shaping environmental law and governance, there will be some concrete changes we might witness on ground?
I think so too. And I come from a background of pharmaceutical marketing, right? Which is a completely Western healthcare model, so as to say. And that is the incongruity that I saw there also. And while writing this book, though I started from the legal standpoint, while writing this book, it becomes so clear that we are trying to work with incongruous systems. We are trying to work with systems that don't gel, that don't lead to one higher. The superordinate goal is not human welfare. It is very clear. The superordinate higher goal for all these systems that we are working with today is serving the capitalist structure. I'm not against capitalism. It's a fantastic tool. But at the end of the day, there has to be a superordinate goal that works for humanity.
Yeah.
I know it's a lofty ask, but we need to put that in.
Yeah. So, one last question. So, the Bishnois view sacrifice as martyrdom rather than tragedy. So, how does that spiritual perspective reshape our understanding of activism or resistance?
Actually, that's a very, very complex question, right? So, for the benefit of your viewers, I think I'll say that when you're talking of martyrdom, a lot of people don't know that a lot of Bishnois have given up their lives for animals. So typically, when a gunshot is fired in the desert, a Bishnoi rises up to see that no animal is harmed, just like a soldier would get up to see that no human is harmed.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when they go after these poachers, the poachers are armed, but the Bishnois who are trying to save the animals are unarmed. And fist fights happen, physical fights happen, and a lot of times the person defending the animal loses his life. And when a person loses his life, he is called a martyr in the community. Unko shaheed kehte hain, the shaheed ka darja dete hain. And even the government now recognizes a few of these shaheeds and they call them as shaheed. And talking on this, I am dedicating all the discussions that we are having to one of the 363 shaheeds. And this discussion that we are having, I'll dedicate it to Shri Manba Kasvi, wife of Shri Khivji of Khejrali village, number 20 in the list of 363 shaheeds. These are for trees and for animals, right? Now, when a person gives up their lives for a cause, it is the highest thing that you can do.
Yeah.
It's the highest possible sacrifice that you can make. While looking at it from a rational perspective, I would say that why not just fight for the cause more rather than giving up your life? But at a point when these fights are happening to save the animal or to let the animal go, a tussle reaches to a level when a person is okay to even give up his life. Like, what bigger sacrifice can there be?
Yeah.
And typically Bishnois bury their dead. So they bury their dead in their own land. They don't. There are no major graveyards in their own land. They bury their dead, and they say that all the elements of the body then nourish the earth back again. It gives me goosebumps to just talk about this even now, that that this is possible, and only for some shaheeds who are recognized by the government, that they built these little remembrances. Otherwise, there is no remembrance also which is built. So it is literally just sacrificing oneself and one's body in life for a value that you believe in, and that value is protection. It is not harming anybody. It is not taking over the world. It is not for power. It is simply to save a tree or to save an animal. What bigger sacrifice can there be?
I know, it's for the greater good for sure. Yeah.
I know, and it sounds unbelievable, no? When I also read it initially, I was like, "Ye kaise ho sakta? How is it possible?" And then village after village, I saw more of these stories, and I said, "Okay, it is happening."
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anu.
Thank you so much. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.